today I made about $57,000 from day trading Amazon. And in this video, I want to showcase where I got in, where I got out, what my game plan was, and basically just give you guys a full recap of my trading day and my trades, right? So with that being said, let's dive right into it. So I had 3 trades for the day, right? Calls and 2 setup puts. And in each trade, I want to first walk you through my mindset and then walk you through where I got in and where I got out. So this was essentially the market today, right? As you guys can see the action. So the first trade I took was calls. So I played the upside on Amazon. I had an opening drive play. And just looking at that action, looking at what happened with Amazon for that, let's just kind of take a look. My first entry was around 939. I added at 940 and I scaled out at 944, right? So when we go into this, when we go look at the 1-minute chart and we understand what is going on. So my game plan with Amazon was looking for the opening bounce and a continuation move. So right when Amazon opened, we held the opening gap zone very, very strong, tried to make the first move up, and I started paying attention to this move. Now, once we tried to make a first move up, I started paying attention to see if we were going to break out of this key level, right? So the moment I saw that breakout of the key level, around 939, a little bit before that is where I took on my position. I got in calls before this breakout right here, seeing a strong hold, and I'm like, you know what? This is where I'm going to take my first position. If we do make a strong move up, I will add on. So on my first position, I added about 30 contracts, or my first position was 30 contracts. And then right when we broke out, I added 120 contracts, right, at $1.74. So I added 120 contracts right here with my initial position here with the target of 128.80, which was yesterday's key level and key level for me that I had. Now, once we started making a huge move up, around 944, I exited my full position for 150 contracts at $2.32, which was right here, 942. I got out around that area. Now, the reason 944, sorry. The reason I got out at 944 is after we got this big move, I started seeing some slowdown on the essential move. So I was like, you know what? Let me go cash. I didn't want to get caught up in any trap and have this stock kind of reverse. Now, essentially, I did leave a little bit of money on the table, more than a little bit, by maybe not scaling out, but I'm okay with this trade. Going down the trade stats, I invested $25,000. I risked about $4,000, $5,000, and I made about $8,800. I made about 34% on the trade, almost a 2R, had an opening drive play. That was the setup. The next trade I had, right, let's go into the next trade. Now, the next trade is where I played the downside move on Amazon. Now, if you guys have watched my other videos and other breakdowns, you guys will see that I have a lot of trades that similarly look like this. We'll see a strong open, we'll consolidate on the strong open, and then we'll sell off, right? And I have, once again, like I said, I have a lot of trades. Like even if I go into my SPY trade for yesterday, same exact thing happened. So once we went into my huge supply zone of 130, massive resistance, massive, tough area for this name to get above, I start seeing rejection. I start seeing weakness in the overall market. So I start formulating a thesis for shorting Amazon. Now, once again, I was not targeting a new low of the day. I was not targeting a massive sell-off. I was just targeting a fade maybe into 128. That was essentially what I was targeting. So after seeing that, around 1014 and 1017 is where I start building my position. So when we go to 1014, right here, and then 1017, which is around here, this is where I take on my short position on Amazon. I buy puts, I add here, this is my first position, and then 1017 right here, I add more. With the assumption that if we get to 130.40, maybe 130.50, I will stop myself out and exit this position. So I add about 150 contracts and then another 101. I try to get, I think, 120 on the top. Didn't get filled all the way. And then after having that trade, I start scaling out on my way down. Now, where do I start scaling down? My first big, massive scale out was at 1027. When I go to 1027, this was 1027. This is where I initially sold about 200 contracts, right? Majority of my position was sold here. Then the remaining position, which was 50 contracts, were sold at 1030. So when you look at it, I could have essentially made a lot more money if I waited to sell my full position here. But most of my position was sold at a lower price point technically. Now, something I want to share with that, right, just to kind of give you guys clarity on that. The trade idea here essentially came from seeing them move up, us making an assumption that this was a weak move up. If it's a weak move up, we will see a fade. I'm trying to fade this move down, making the fade down. I take my first entry here with the add-on position. Once I add into my position and once I have comfortable size, I'm essentially now shorting this play. As I'm shorting this play, I'm also going off the assumption that if I'm shorting this zone here, if we are able to break out of this zone around, let's say 130.5, I will put my stop, I will take my loss and call it a day. However, once we start fading, we start seeing a nice bleed out. I'm like, okay, we're fading, we're seeing a nice bleed out. I start looking to possibly scale out. My first big scale out was around 1027. So when I go to 1027, this is essentially where I sold out, and something I want to share with you guys, right? This is where I sold my first set of contracts, right? And at this price point at 1027, I sold them for 201. They went to 216. So in reality, if I waited a little bit more, right, from this point, I could have maybe caught the bottom. Maybe I could have held this, wrote it out, and even made more money on this initial trade. But once again, I always talk about this. Scale out. If you want to make it in this game long run, make sure you scale out. Make sure you build cash flow. Make sure you take profits. Make sure you lock in profits. So in this situation, I don't care if that potentially it can go lower, right? Maybe this ended up reversing. Who knows? Maybe it went into chop all day. That mental bandwidth or capacity for me is far more important. So I'm okay on taking this profit and making a solid amount and scaling out and then scaling out the remaining and not catching the bottom. I don't care to catch the top or bottom. I care if there's this big move, I want a piece of that. If there's this big move, I want a piece of that. As I start capturing a piece over time, my piece will start getting bigger and bigger as I start getting better. But essentially, I'm just trying to capture a piece. In this situation, that's the piece I call it. I missed out on this, but hey, I'm not expecting to take the whole thing. I'm not expecting to make the full move, right? So that was this trade. Going into this trade stats, invested $13,000, made about 37%, made $14,000 on the trade, had a 3R return. My setup on this was a morning top reversal. If you guys go into my SPY trade yesterday, same exact thing, morning top reversal. By the way, the journaling platform that I'm using here is TradeZella, and when I look at the opening here, for the first couple of minutes when I had the trade, like look at this, I was down. This is my running P&L on the option contract, right? I was down, right? I was ultimately down, and then my P&L started going up massively. And even when it was going up massively, it was adjusting too, right? And even on this trade went up to like 14.7 at one point. I made about 14,000. So I left essentially a little bit of money on the table. And then the last trade for the day that I had was also Amazon. I was just trading Amazon. Now, the last trade of the day, you guys can see entries right here. Invested 54,000, sized up on this, risked a lot more, about 12,000, 62% on the trade, caught this huge sell-off. So let's talk about that. First entry at 1045. So this is essentially where the first entry was, 1045, right? So with this, started seeing bull flag, bear flag, whatever you want to call it. I don't even know the names, essentially, what these patterns are called. All I know is we got a huge leg down. Essentially, after a huge leg down, we will start seeing some sort of consolidation. We start seeing consolidation going into the massive breakout zone up here, massive hold zone. So I'm like, okay, we're coming into that zone. Market has been very instabilized the past few days. If we are not able to get momentum, if we're not able to get some movements, this may possibly have a sell-off into 128.4. And that's what I'm looking for. I was not expecting this, by the way. I'll be the first to say I did not expect this big move down. I didn't think we're going to get 15 straight red candles just bleeding nonstop and having big moves. No, I positioned myself for this move. So went in 105 contracts at 1045. Then I added 125 at 1047. Then I added another 100 at 1049. Then I added another 100 at 1050. So from 1045 to 1050, I was adding 1045 first add all the way to 1050. I was building my position here as I saw a big sell-off. So this is where essentially I'm just building my position. And another thing, the reason I'm even able to build this position and have confidence, and even if let's just say it's fake confidence and it's not real confidence, whatever the case is, I just had a strong start to my day. Now, if I didn't have that strong start to the day, I'll be the first to tell you I would not build on this position whatsoever. Like whatsoever, I would not build on this position. So I'm essentially building on this position, especially when we keep breaking. Now, if I was to go back and I was to look at this from an honest standpoint of view, I probably would have not added here. Like out of all honesty, I would have not added here. I think I got so comfortable with hitting buy and just getting filled over and over again that I added, and added, right? And once again, if I was to go back to this trade, guys, and I'll show you the replay feature that we just added recently. It's not public yet, but I'll show you that. I would have not taken that position, right? Now, when I go into it, you'll see 1055. I scale some out. So we go to 1055 right here. So once we get the first green candle, I'm like, let me take some off. I don't want to get caught up in a nasty reversal, right? Then we go to 1057. I scale a big portion out of 1057 because now I'm getting scared about seeing a reversal because the stock is not essentially going to keep going lower and lower. We're coming to the low of the day right here, right? I'm like, okay, we're coming to the low of the day. I don't want to see a nasty reversal. So let me sell 200 contracts. So I sell 200 right there. And now I'm going very, very, cash heavy now. Another 120 at 210 and then another 30. So when I go to 1102 right here, sell my remaining position here. My last position was here. So essentially, I caught the bottom, if you want to call that, a perfect play, right? But if I was to go back, and once again, I'd love to go back to my trades and evaluate everything. When I do go back to this trade, I will essentially tell myself, like, hey, I would have not added here. My scale outs were great, but my scaling in here, terrible. This big red sell-off, like there's a part of me that will tell you, like there's a component that I've gotten kind of lucky on this, right? Because this right here, I remember I did not read nothing on the tape. I didn't read any real movement. And this is just me being honest. Here, okay, fine. I got the move. I got the ad. This ad here, I think was an unnecessary ad. Did not need to do that ad. And once again, guys, the reason I recap my trades and go through it is because I can understand what needs to happen, what I need to work on. Then I also like to tag my trades. Like, what setup was this? This was a continuation sell-off, right? I got the continuation sell-off. So now essentially when I go to replay this trade and I go into those time zones and I go into looking at, the action that has happened, and I try to understand the action, and I'm like, okay, like where did I buy? Where did I sell? How did that candle start formulating? What made the candles formulate the way they did formulate? And we're still building this out just to get better, a better idea. I start seeing like, wait, why did I add on this big sell-off here? Why is Umar adding right here? And this is a replay feature, guys, by the way. It's not public yet. We're going to push it out soon. But you can go back and replay some of your trades just to see how it worked. We'll have level 2 timed sales and things like that up too. But yeah, I'm just looking at the action. Right? When I look at this action, essentially, I'm like, wait, why am I adding on this candle? Like it makes absolutely no sense. And then as we start going lower and lower, this is where I should be maybe taking something off. But, seeing that continuation of red, right? And see, when I go back to my replay, it makes sense why I took size off here. Because that big green push up is what made me go, wait, let me take something off. Right? That's essentially what made me take size off, which was a good thing because I don't want to get caught up in every reversal. Right? But essentially what I'm trying to explain here is when you guys are taking trades, you need to go back and look into, did this stop make sense? Did this profit take make sense? What could I have done better? Right? And I had the continuation sell-off. Like my day here, I think was phenomenal. But what out of this could have worked better? What out of this could I have done better? Right? What out of this needed to improve on my end? Right? These are some of the things that really, really play a key role. And then also establishing, setups. Right? I have a setup for this, and then I have a setup for this. Now, if I go to my setup for, let's just say hypothetically, I go to my setup for SPY trade, right? That happened yesterday, morning top reversal. Look at this, guys. Same exact price action, same exact things that are happening, right? In terms of the action, we get the move up, a lot of consolidation, a lot of rejection, and then a fade. We go to Amazon, we get the move up, a lot of consolidation, and a fade. Same exact setup, same exact tag, and now I get better at reading that. I get better at reading that tag, and that's what's very important to tag your trades. Very important to identify your setups. Very important to keep them, consistent, because that consistency in your setups will show up, and when it does show up, and if you have strong sense of execution on them, you can make tons and tons of money on those, particular setups. So yeah, with that being said, just wanted to recap that trading day. I've been having a really good trading week so far, and ultimately just wanted to share, give you guys a recap on that. With that being said, thank you for watching, guys. I will see you on the next video.